That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, we are going to dive into the running back position here, and I'm going to try to go as deep as I can with these rankings. Of course, I want to have enough time to dive in depth with each one of these players that are discussed, but don't worry. If you want to go deeper, of course, you can find our rankings by going and getting our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. With that Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, well over 100 pages of information, mainly historical research on what matters for running back prospects. We go through, we prove our model, then we dive in depth with every running back that you need to worry about in Dynasty Rookie Drafts. And of course, we have one quarterback rankings, we have Superflex rankings, we have everything that you could want there. Just head over to flockfantasy.com and please make sure you use the code NFL Draft to get that exclusive discount that ends at the end of this week. But I think that should be it for the intro. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, and leave a comment letting me know how stupid I am, because I know y'all love to do that, and I love to read them. But let's dive into our running back one. He was the running back one before the draft. He's the running back one after the draft. You have Breece Hall. Now, I have talked in depth about Breece Hall for the longest time now. I mean, this is a running back that right after the NFL Combine, while he was the running back 21, according to Dynasty League Football ADP, at that time, we said, you know what, after he hits these marks, based on where he should go in the NFL draft, based on his BMI, based on his production at Iowa State, and his 40-yard dash time, he checks every single box where I'm willing to go out of our way. I'm willing to say that he is a top 5 Dynasty running back today. We need to aggressively target him in the second round of startup drafts. Get him now before his price really climbs through the roof. And before the draft even happened, Breece Hall was already being valued as that top 5 Dynasty running back. Just comes to show you the hype train that can get going for a player during the offseason in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Now, if we're looking at Breece Hall in New York, however, I don't really want to talk about him as a prospect because I've already said everything that there is to say. BMI of 30.3. He had a team college target share of 11.7. I mean, he almost had 100 receptions at Iowa State in 3 years. This is a running back that I think you could make the argument he's a better pass catcher than Michael Carter. Like, I understand, yes, a lot of people think that Michael Carter is a very talented running back. And I will say, yeah, Michael Carter has talent. Michael Carter, he could have gotten the job done for the New York Jets. But I promise you, Breece Hall is a better running back in every way imaginable. And that is including his receiving ability out of the backfield. So please, I've read the comments. I know people are coming out and saying, oh, well, Mason, yeah, but Michael Carter is still going to be the third down running back. Michael Carter is still getting 5 to 6 receptions a game. No, that's not happening. Please do not think that is going to be the case. Michael Carter is probably going to play about 25% of the snaps. Maybe the first month of the season, he has a slightly larger role because Breece Hall is a rookie. But if we're talking in the long term here with the investment that was made into Breece Hall, Michael Carter is playing about 25% of the snaps. I do not think this is Breece Hall on first and second down and Michael Carter on third down. No. If that's your viewpoint, please throw it out the window. I know that we really want to be overconfident with our ability to evaluate these running backs, but can we just take a step back and look at a couple things and look at what the NFL is telling us? The New York Jets, the coaching staff, the front office that had the ability to see Michael Carter pretty much every single day his rookie season. Like, we want to say we know Michael Carter's talented. We know what we saw on TV. We know what he was coming out of UNC. They were in the building with him. They talked to him. They watched him at practice every day. They watched every single down that he played at the NFL level, probably 10 times more than we did. And they thought so much of Michael Carter that they went out of their way, try to trade up to draft Breece Hall in the first round. And when they couldn't do so, they took him at 36th overall. So please do not think that this is a committee backfield. It's going to be Breece Hall. He averaged over 25 carries a game at Iowa State in 2020. That's a bell cow workload. Now, if we head over to our Dynasty startup rankings, I don't know where to put Hall as it stands. I had him as the Dynasty running back 5 coming in, but that was right before Javonte Williams had Melvin Gordon come back to that Denver backfield. So now if we're looking at this, I think Breece Hall, you have to take him over Javonte Williams. Because if we're looking at Breece Hall as a running back prospect, he is a better prospect in every measurable way than Javonte Williams was. Literally, Breece Hall is a better prospect every way imaginable. And I would assume that Melvin Gordon and Michael Carter have a similar role this upcoming season for their respective offenses. Now, if you're asking me in a redraft league on Underdog Fantasy, who am I going to be drafting just for 2022? Yeah, I'm going to be going Javonte Williams because he is that second-year running back. We can assume that he is going to have his full role the day he steps on the field, where it maybe takes Breece Hall a little bit longer. And also with Javonte Williams, he's in a much better offense. But I think for the long term, I'm probably going to take the younger player, the player that I perceive to be the better talent as well. I think Breece Hall is the Dynasty running back 4. I think you have Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift ahead of him. And then I'm taking Breece Hall at 4. I know people are going to hate me for that, but I am always the person to go out there and to overvalue these players at the running back position as rookies. Because if you head over to our Dynasty research book, also well over 100 pages, you can find that on flockfantasy.com as well. You can get our Dynasty bundle, and you can still use the promo code NFL Draft to get the discount on pretty much anything on flockfantasy.com. But if you head over there and you look at the age distribution for fantasy points at the running back position and what happens with their overall Dynasty ADP when they hit as rookies, think about it. Javonte Williams was a running back 2, a low to mid running back 2 last year, but he showed enough to be drafted in the first round of startups this offseason. So if Breece Hall can go out there and he can be a mid running back 2 for the New York Jets, who's to say Breece Hall is not a first round startup pick next year as well? So I still think I'm drafting Breece Hall in the middle of the second round. I'm not worried about Michael Carter. I think Breece Hall is better pass catching running back than Michael Carter even. I think he's a 3 down bell cow here. Now going over to our next running back, he was the running back 2 going into the draft, still the running back 2. It's going to be Kenneth Walker. I mean, if you're looking at Kenneth Walker, everything has stayed the same. This is a running back that is an elite level athlete. He is massive as a BMI of 31.2. He gets the draft capital you were looking for. He was selected with the 41st overall pick to the Seattle Seahawks. But with this situation, on paper, it's bad. And I talk about this in our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, but on paper, it's a bad situation when he's going to a team that not only has Rashaad Penny on it. Now, with Rashaad Penny, as I've discussed so many times before, I love him as a player. I think Rashaad Penny is a very talented running back, and I think that he has the talent to be a starting running back in the NFL. But the ability that he lacks is the ability to stay healthy. If you had to ask me, Mason, I'm over under, how many games does Rashaad Penny play this year? 9.5. I'm probably taking the under. Like, it's very rarely am I willing to call a player injury prone, but since 2018, based on what we have seen with Rashaad Penny, I think at this point, you can throw him in that bucket. And on top of this, even if you are worried about Rashaad Penny, he's on a 1-year deal in Seattle. So even if you're worried about him today, that's not going to be an issue starting next year. Now, I think the real concern with this Seattle Seahawks offense is going to be the fact that this is a bad team overall. Once you miss out on Russell Wilson, I mean, we already saw how bad the Seattle Seahawks were last year, and now they're moving on from Russell Wilson. I think they're going to have a hard time pushing the ball down the field. I think they are going to have a hard time presenting Kenneth Walker with red zone opportunities. And with Walker, he's not going to be a pass catching running back. I mean, we've already gone through this and it's in our rookie draft guide. But if you look at running backs that were drafted in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft since 2014 that had less than 5.5% of their team's college target share. Here, you had Kenneth Walker at 5.4. These were the running backs: Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Ronald Jones, and Derrick Henry. I'm not saying that to show that Kenneth Walker is a bad running back. No, I think Kenneth Walker is a good RB, but he's not going to be a pass catcher. So what do you have to be if you want to be a successful running back and you're Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, or Nick Chubb? Of course, I'm not expecting him to turn into Derrick Henry, but in the case of Josh Jacobs, I think that would be a fair comparison. What you need is you need that touchdown upside. You need those red zone opportunities. Josh Jacobs 2 years back led the NFL in carries inside the 5-yard line. That's what you're looking for with Kenneth Walker. Now, the issue is with the Seattle Seahawks team, if they are going to have a very slow pace of play and they are not going to have the red zone opportunities, they're going to have to end drives early. That's scary. But I want to go back to the package that this team got for Russell Wilson. If you're looking at what Denver gave up, it was more than the Matthew Stafford trade last year. You have the Seattle Seahawks with a boatload of picks this season, as well as a boatload of picks next year. And probably more important than that even, is they don't have a quarterback on a massive contract. They are going to have so much cap flexibility next offseason that I think we have seen this team be able to prove to us that they are an above average front office, and we know they want to run the ball. So I wouldn't be surprised with the flexibility that they'll have with the cap and also all the draft capital they'll have over the next 2 seasons. If they are able to effectively turn this rebuild around by the time that we see Kenneth Walker in 2023, the Seattle Seahawks may be back to being an above average, or even if they're just an average NFL offense, when they're going to run the ball over and over and over again. I don't mind this landing spot with Kenneth Walker. Now, if you look at our running back prospect model, this is in our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, we have Kenneth Walker scored at a 23, running back since 2014 that scored similarly. You have J.K. Dobbins, 22, Melvin Gordon, 22, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, 22, Duke Johnson, Darius Geis as well. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 23. I really like the comparison for Kenneth Walker to either be someone like Darius Geis. Obviously, Geis didn't work out for a multitude of reasons, or J.K. Dobbins. I think that's also a fair comparison. Those running backs that are elite level athletes that can't catch passes on third down. That's what I'm looking for with Kenneth Walker. Now let's go to the running back that was a high riser after the NFL draft. Let's go over to James Cook. Now, y'all know I have not been a big James Cook fan because this is a running back that weighs 199 pounds. Not only does he weigh 199 pounds, but he doesn't stand in at 5'8". He stands in at 5'11". So he has a BMI of 27.8. The only running backs to be drafted in Dynasty Rookie Draft since 2014 with a BMI that low, Tyler Ervin and Kenyon Drake. But what's so funny is after you plug in the draft capital for James Cook, he scores an 18 in our running back prospect model. Another running back that scores an 18 there, Kenyon Drake. Now, I'm not saying that he would be Drake, but if you go back to look at Kenyon Drake in 2020, if you look at Drake in 2019 even, when he's an efficient running back, I think you can at least see the path to a ceiling for James Cook. Now, that ceiling would be a mid running back 2 in Buffalo. I don't want to act like I'm getting too excited. I'm trying to go through and paint a positive picture with a massive red flag here. But if we go over to his production at Georgia, the most carries he ever saw at Georgia was his senior season with 113. But that was with 15 games played. So that was 7.5 carries a game. I mean, you are not confident that James Cook is going to be able to handle a 3-down workload. I know he played with Zamir White. I get it. But if we combine these two different variables we are looking at, the fact that his most used season in college, 7.5 carries a game, and he weighs less than 200 pounds. The only running back to be a top 24 option last year in fantasy that weighed less than 200 pounds was Austin Eckler. I think you got to be worried. I think you should be worried with James Cook about this size, about his ability to handle a 3-down workload. And that is why I was very low on James Cook going into the NFL draft. But to be completely fair, he lands in Buffalo. And if there was ever going to be a landing spot for a running back to be able to find success without handling 15 plus touches a game, it would be for the Buffalo Bills, because you know that they simply cannot stack the box. And also, they're not going to be able to go down there and crash whenever Josh Allen goes to hand it off. They usually have to keep a linebacker back to spy on Josh Allen, given his own rushing upside. So what this allows for is it allows for a player like James Cook to be in an offensive environment where every touch you get should be hyper efficient, unless you're a bad running back, which we have no reason to believe James Cook is a bad running back based on his efficiency marks at Georgia. But unless you're a very bad running back, you should be able to be hyper efficient in this offense in Buffalo. Also, James Cook is a capable pass-catching running back coming out of the backfield as well. So I want to be fair with James Cook. Like I said, I know I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between saying, oh no, he can't work out. Look at this massive red flag. And if he was ever going to work out, it'd be in this situation. But that's sometimes the situation that we are in. I don't think you should be pushing James Cook up into being a first-round pick in a Superflex league. I think you should be going at the beginning of the second. He is clearly the running back 3 in this class. However, like I said, it's a massive red flag. It's a massive, massive, massive red flag, and I don't want to understate that. But if he was going to be able to overcome it, it would be in this situation. Like, I don't want to say he got lucky. I know everybody was saying whenever he was drafted, oh, he didn't want to go to Buffalo. Look how sad he looks. This is the best situation for him. Now let's go to our next running back. Our running back 4 is going to be Rashaad White. With Rashaad White, we love the receiving game capability. The best pass-catching running back in this draft class. I got really excited. I ranked him as the running back 4 right after the NFL Combine, and I then had to move him down as we approached the NFL draft because everywhere you looked, every NFL mock draft you looked, Rashaad White was being projected to be a day 3 pick. He was projected to be like a 5th round selection in the NFL draft, which I didn't really understand. We said this before the draft. I mean, you looked at the Rashaad White speed. You looked at his receiving game capability at Arizona State, where he averaged almost 19% of his team's college target share. That's literally the level of some collegiate wide receivers. That's ridiculous. That's like Alec Pierce, and it's coming at the running back position. So I was very excited about a player like Rashaad White until we had the draft capital projection completely change. But he goes in the top 100 picks. He goes where we needed to see. He goes pick 91 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know I love me some Leonard Fournette. With Leonard Fournette, I believe he himself averaged almost 7 targets a game last year. Like, Leonard Fournette was one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL, but I am unsure if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers want to use him that way. I think that this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team really is looking to have that third down running back, really looking to have their version of James White with Tom Brady. And we saw this based on 2 years ago, them going out and drafting Keyshawn Vaughn. And last season as well, they went out of their way and they ended up signing Giovanni Bernard from the Cincinnati Bengals. These moves, combined with them taking Rashaad White in the 3rd round here, they tell us that maybe they don't plan on Leonard Fournette being that prototypical bell cow running back. I think this draft pick definitely has to hurt Leonard Fournette. I think it makes Rashaad White viable on 3rd downs, and Rashaad White almost becomes a slightly worse version of Tony Pollard, because I think that he will be a running back that is getting used sparingly throughout the entire season with the healthy Leonard Fournette. You won't be able to start him in fantasy. His role is not going to be that large. But what could happen is if Leonard Fournette goes down, then all of a sudden, Rashaad White would have the upside. I don't want to say to be a top 12 running back in fantasy. That's why I'm calling him a worse version of Tony Pollard, because he is undersized. He only has a BMI of 29. But I think he could end up turning into a top 15 running back, a top 18 running back in fantasy on a per game basis, especially, I mean, pretty much exclusively in a PPR format. So great landing spot for Rashaad White, combined with some decent draft capital. I think we can be excited. I think you can easily draft him in the middle of the 2nd round now. Now going to our running back 5, someone that I didn't really get going into the NFL draft. I mean, still, if you look at our running back model, it's not a big fan of Damien Pierce. With Damien Pierce, he gets one of the best landing spots in the draft, obviously going to a horrendous offense with the Houston Texans. I mean, it can't be understated how bad this offense is going to be in Houston. But there's a massive but with this. There's legitimately no competition for touches. Right now, you're going to have Damien Pierce competing with post-Achilles tear Marlon Mack. Don't think Marlon Mack is anything. If he was something, he would have got paid more. He's getting paid literally no money at all in Houston. Rex Burkhead and Royce Freeman. It's ugly. He is stepping into a room where there are a lot of touches available. And one thing I do want to discuss is with these day 3 draft picks, you're going to notice that I'm talking about the immediate situation a lot. Like when we're talking about Kenneth Walker, who goes in the 2nd round, I'm willing to try to project out how the Seattle Seahawks are going to look a couple of years down the road. But once we get to these running backs that went in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, I hope y'all have learned this lesson from this year. Y'all should have learned it last year with James Robinson. But with those running backs, you cannot project the situation down the road, because what we have found is even when these day 3 running backs have success, teams are so quick to bring in their replacements. You saw this with, Elijah Mitchell looked good last year. They take a running back in round 3. Michael Carter looked good last year. They go and take Breece Hall as the first running back off the board. You saw this with James Robinson in his rookie season. They go take Travis Etienne in the first round. So if we're going to be talking about Damien Pierce's situation, I don't want to say, okay, yeah, well, there's no competition for targets this year. He can work himself into the role, win the role. And next year, they can improve the offense with someone like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young in the first round. No. If Damien Pierce looks good this year, he could still be replaced next year. So you need to be looking at that short-term value with these day 3 running backs and trying to find players that will step into opportunity and you can sell them almost immediately. And I think Damien Pierce may fit that mold. Now, the reason I'm not a big fan of him is not particularly fast, ran a 4.59, wasn't really used as a receiver at Florida. Now, I know that this is a running back that really didn't have a large role ever at Florida. He was hyper efficient with his touches, but still at the end of the day, 4.8% of your team's college target share. And he did fall outside of the top 100 picks. He went at pick 107 to the Houston Texans. So I'm not a big fan of Damien Pierce as a prospect. Like in our wide receiver prospect model, you'll see that we actually have Brian Robinson as a better prospect than Damien Pierce. But with Brian Robinson going to a situation where he's playing behind Antonio Gibson and you have J.D. McKissic there, I think you probably have to be drafting Damien Pierce over him. But of course, thank you so much for being a part of the Flock Sporting channel. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop that like, leave a comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, and also go get our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide on flockfantasy.com. Use promo code NFL Draft for that exclusive discount this week. Thank you again. Hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.